I want to change the world, right? So, but we change it same as the coffee shop. One cup at a time is our slogan. We're just changing it one family at a time. Hopefully that they don't hit a lot of roadblocks, that we can change the next generation. Because my son, I think about, this is why I do it for him. I want to give things better than I found it, not worse.
Yeah.
And we need to do something for our next generation, and don't just be takers.
Welcome everybody back to another exciting show of the About That Water podcast, where we help you build strong financial habits. And I have the awesome opportunity to bring on Brandon Neely, who is a serial entrepreneur, a profit first and banking yourself professional, and the co-host of the Wealth Wisdom Financial podcast with his wife and business partner, Amanda. So Brandon, you've been doing so many great things over the years, but also we go through a lot of troubles to see those great things. Can you talk about your first business, which was the coffee bar?
Yeah. Well, what do you want to know? Like, it was a great thing. Someone asked me, would I ever do it again? I'm like, it was a great MBA that I will never, ever, ever do again. And if anybody ever says, do you want to would you open up a restaurant and do that? And I'm like, no, not going to happen. So I loved it. However, it was a challenge. You know, everybody will come to you when you own a coffee shop, and people think it's like exciting and, I want to do that. And they want, can I just pick your brain? Was what they would say. And I hate when people say that, and especially when they come and they want to pick your brain and they never buy a cup of coffee. That pisses me off even more, because I'm like, all right, you're not even going to buy a cup of coffee, and I should charge coaching fees for you to learn about my valleys and peaks. But they see the peaks, they don't see the valleys.
Right. And that's one of the things that I have to say that a lot of people do is provide work for the mentor that they want to get to. So for you, did you have mentors along the way when you were starting this coffee shop?
Oh, yeah. I think there's several people that I would go and say, hey, how do you do this? We would intern at another coffee shop beforehand to learn how to run a coffee shop, because we never did it before, right? So we did that before we even opened ours, and started that process. And then you have people along the way that are mentors or guides. Maybe they're not in the sphere of coffee, but they're health coaches, spiritual directors, pastors, those kind of things that helped us overcome and grow, and ultimately transition out of that business, because it was more than just a coffee shop for us.
Nice. So when you say it's more than a coffee shop, what was it for you guys?
I mean, it was about changing people's lives. Ethical economics. This is a money podcast. So we were like, hey, let's make a difference by what we buy. Not just say we value this, but our values are reflected in our purchases. And so that was a big reason as to why we started that. And community building. And so we would meet a lot of people in the neighborhood that we could connect with. And we ultimately did make a difference in there. I feel like I make a lot more difference within the finance world. But it was great learning experience.
Nice. So having that understanding of what set your business separate from everybody else's, because obviously a lot of people here that are listening, if they planning on starting a business, they like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
Obviously you took the internship as an option. So that's a great way to leverage somebody else's knowledge, but also giving back at the same time, which is you giving them your time in form of payment. But then when it started coming out on your own, how did you separate yourself from the other coffee shops in the area?
I mean, everybody knew us.
Oh.
Right. We were building Cheers. Right. So you think about, if you ever watched that show, Cheers, you know, it wasn't the beer that was the deal. it was the people that were serving it, and they were coming there for the relationships more so. So a lot of times we'd have customers and real estate people, you know, they had their office pretty much in my coffee shop. So we had a lot of good friends, relationships that we just continued to build, and they'd come in every day or just hang out for hours. You know, I mean, I have so many fun stories of those friends. We wrote a book together with one of them. I don't know what else. We did all kinds of stuff.
Sounds like fun. Definitely, you know, find something that you really enjoy versus just doing nothing. Do you even like coffee, or you just just?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No. We were. I would say, you know, there's the hipsters. You know, that they all they drink is like crazy coffee. I'm like, man, I'm more hipster than the hipsters because we owned a coffee shop.
Right.
You know. So I don't like crappy coffee.
Nice. Like, do you make your own coffee now, even though you don't have the shop anymore?
We don't roast it, but I do make coffee at the office. I thought I was going to be done with that, but usually I make it for everybody here every morning. I'm like, I thought I was done with this, but
Nice.
I don't know. Apparently, I'm still in the coffee serving business.
In your veins, man. It's in your veins.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. I was telling my wife the other day, I'm like, what happened? But I get here first. So
nice. Let's fast forward a little bit, because you changed, you sold the business. And during that time frame, you stumbled across something called infinite banking. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I kind of stumbled into it before while I had the coffee shop. And so my biggest risk was me. My biggest investment was me. And so we needed to protect that. And so, and also as a coffee shop owner, I needed to still be saving for the future. So we did all this Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman stuff, and learned all the stuff that we were supposed to do, you know, do the company match. Well, if you're the company, you're matching yourself. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So we're like, all right, well, what do we need to do? And how do I have a good savings? So I had come across this concept as a book or a documentary called Banking with Life, and met my mentor, our friend at the time, and he had showed this documentary, and we're like, man, we're doing everything wrong. We thought we were doing everything right. We were kind of taking down the debt. Now, here's the thing in the coffee shop world. When you start a business, not everybody gives you money. I mean, you can get money for going to school, right, and an 18-year-old can get $200,000 in debt to go to school. But if you try and get a business loan, you have to have history, right? Which is insane. Yeah, and you're like, I don't even have. It's a new business, but you have to have history to get money, and we wonder why it's hard. So we took on a lot of credit card debt to get this going, and thought we were very naive, but we learned about this concept, started saving, was able to use our cash value. It's a properly designed whole life insurance, which is where everybody will jump off the call or this podcast and say, oh, he's talking about whole life insurance. It's going to be a sales thing, or they're just and it's make money, all that crazy stuff I've heard. But here's the thing, and why I'm in this industry now, is I was able to use that policy to get out of high interest debt, pay myself back, or you want to say pay the insurance company back, but I was able to use that line of credit again. Mm-hmm. And I was able to use that same money when a flood happened in my business. Literally, this was crazy. We had the roof was having a repair, and we had a freak storm, one of those 100-year storms that happen every day nowadays. Right. You know what I'm talking about? Like, they're all the time now. And we're like, oh yeah, here's the 100-year storm again. Well, that happened, and I got a call. I went to work out, because you talked about habits. This is something that made me help maintain and grow is I at least was going to the gym. Not much, but I was making sure I was going. And so I was on the treadmill just after work, and my staff calls me, and I'm like, ignore it, because I'm like, I'll call them after I get done. Then they call my wife, who's next door on the treadmill, and they said, the store is falling apart. I need you to come in. And literally we walk in, the store is falling apart. We're in inches of water, and able to at least overcome the flood because of having access to capital that I was able to use. Right. And what happened at that time, I did not know my wife was pregnant at the time until like a month later, which probably shouldn't have been walking through, water like that, but we didn't know. And we were like, okay, something needs to change. So we had decided we're going to sell this business because we need to make a change. There's other issues that were going on. So then my wife is like, so now you got to go get a job because I can't get a job. I'm pregnant. And so I was like, I can't get a job. I'm an entrepreneur. That's not even going to happen. And so still I was like, all right, I'll go look for a job. So started, and then I applied to work for my mentor who sells these type of policies. I was like, this has helped me. I've sent you clients. This might work. And so I applied, and he said, nope, you're too entrepreneurial. You'll break my systems. I was like, oh, that sucks. And then a month or so later, he comes back. He said, I have an idea. How about you and your wife start your own agency, and I'll train you? I was like, ooh, that sounds better, because then we can play around with in our own little sandbox. And he also knew that my wife will keep me from going to jail, in case, those kind of things. Yeah. Compliance. So we started that. Our first name was Grandma's Wealth Wisdom when we launched that business. Okay. The tagline was, sometimes intelligence skips a generation, because we look at our finances and people's finances, right? And we're like, look at this. The people are all jacked up and broke. It's because we were risking, saying no risk, no reward, and never saving, right? We need to save and build a good foundation first. So we were like, yeah, well, let's be savers. And I will tell you, and I might get a little crazy here, but I think a lot of this is by design to keep us in that place of confusion. And Wall Street knows it. So anyway, launched into this. I did not know that Dave Ramsey loves to hate on us. I just knew this concept helped me sell a business, helped me buy a house, a lot of things that I'm like, maybe this works. And then you hear, oh no, we're the devil. We're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm like, no, I'm just smart. So we still help people hopefully be smarter with their money. And it's not an investment. I'm helping people build a solid, safe foundation so they can risk with money they can afford to lose, not with money they can't afford to lose. So anyway, I went ranting around here, but I love this being in this industry, the amount of people and things I change, having people crying on my financial analysis calls. I'm like, oh, this is great. I mean, kind of, but we're changing lives. So,
and talking about changing lives, how do we go beyond the consumerism that's happening right now? Because there's other isms out there that we can dive into, but consumerism is kind of I guess you could say the monetary slavery that we're going through right now. How do we get beyond that?
I think that there's a challenge, and I'll go into some acronyms, and this is in our new money journal that we have, the 5 Smooth Stones journal. So what we've been, and as we've done a lot of financial analysis with people, what I've learned is that the world is in chaos, right? And it's, COVID taught us that, and it's confusing, haphazard, anxious, overwhelming, and stressful, right? And so we're confused, haphazard in our money, overwhelmed, stressed out, right? And so then what happens is, oh, you're overwhelmed. Let's just throw an ad to them, and you deserve that thing. So we buy because we are addicted to consumption, right? That's by design. Again, we are designed to consume. That's how the economy keeps going up, and why interest rates and all that stuff is played is because it's all a game, right? Probably some people will listen here will be like, yeah, no, it's not. I'm like, well, no, it is. Right. So it's all a giant game to keep us on the treadmill. But we have to go back, and this is the challenge, is most people haven't sat and thought about what they want. And I talk to people all the time. And you said the habits, right? They haven't even figured out where they want to go, right? Mm-hmm. And so our method, we call it the still method, which comes from the Bible, be still and know. That's where our overflow came from too, by the way. But we were like, okay, you need to set your sights, kind of know where you want to go, right? Yeah. Most people don't, right? Then you need to track your in and out, which means you have to budget or something. And that doesn't necessarily mean budgeting, but you track your time. If you want to have a 6-pack abs, you need to set your sights. What kind of abs do I want? Track, inspect your progress is the I, look for 1% adjustments, and live deliberately. That's the healthy habits. And if you go back 10 years and you say, I didn't get to where I wanted to go, I'm like, because you were sleepwalking through life, right?
Yep.
It's true, right? So we have to be intentional about that. And then when a commercial comes on that says you want this, well, we already predefined what we want, right?
So that helps you put the blinders on, so you're not being consumed. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a business owner. I love shiny objects, right? But we have to figure out what are those things that bring us true happiness, true wealth, whatever wealth means to you, and then go for that. And then you don't need 100 pairs of shoes unless you like that stuff, I guess. Yeah. But I don't need that many shoes.
And I guess it's almost like you can live your rich life if you just focus on what you want. Keep the blinders on. Stop spending your money in other places that doesn't matter. Well, what brings you joy, and sometimes joy, and it can be a little woo-woo, but what brings you happiness? And for me, I'm like, do I value a big house? Well, if I value a big house, I might not have other things. Yeah.
Right. So I've thought about, well, I want to be able to have my son visit 6 of the 7 continents. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to prioritize that as I build my financial foundation.
And hopefully they will actually take advantage of everything that you're putting into play. I'm sure you'll make sure you provide the educational tools. Whether or not they're going to take it at the time you want to give it to them.
Well, and that's where the infinite banking policies and even our journal, the thing was written for him, right? It was like, what would I do if I were to be gone tomorrow? What are the habits I would put in place? One of the habits is, put the first things first, right? So, in the Bible, there's a thing called tithing, right? Yep. 10% goes to God. And then there's a book called Richest Man in Babylon. 10% of all you earn is for you to keep. Well, isn't that pretty interesting that you're prioritizing what's important and then you move on? So I want to teach them those concepts. And then we also have a policy that my mother-in-law is paying for him. and it's his adulting fund that we'll probably use for real estate or something. I don't know.
Nice.
Who knows if college will be around? Like, people are saying, like, yeah, go to college. I'm like, college is going to be $1 billion when my son goes up for college at this point.
Yeah. So as we go through, talking about the second segment here, just kind of talk about just overcoming some of those adversities. Because you mentioned starting the business. We talked about that already. We talked about changing the mindset to a degree of just consumerism. Now, some of the things that, what are the things that kind of separate people, or some of the basic steps, the practical steps to help somebody go beyond paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah, I think that we need to be saving first, just like the idea of tithing first, right? So start when people say, "Oh, I can't do this," I'm like, "No, if you have $1, can you live off of 90 cents first, right? And then you start squirreling that away, whether it's in a life insurance policy that's designed the right way or something else. Now, savings and investing are two different things."
Yeah.
Right. And so people are saying, well, I'm saving in my 401k and I'm going to get a company match. And I do like to ask people, okay, this experiment has been around since the 80s, 70s, 80s. How's that working out for our parents? Right. And do we want to do the same thing? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Yep.
Apparently it didn't work. Something isn't working. Right.
True.
So why are we going to keep going down this road? And I don't know, how old are you?
I am about to turn 40.
40, right? So that means you're a few years from 59 and a half, right? Yeah. So we put money into the market and hoping it's going to be, and we lock it away, right? And then we're like, oh, it'll be fine. And sometimes in these situations, we're like told, don't worry about it. It'll bounce back if something happens. But that's horrible advice, right? I mean, really, because the way, if we were in a relationship that was, it'll bounce back, don't worry about it. We would
our relationship get out back, yeah.
Right. But it's insane. And this knowing how volatile things are.
Yeah.
Right. And I worry for people who are like 20, or my son who's 5. I'm like, oh man, we got taxes, all kinds of stuff. So we need to start thinking for ourselves. Don't just give it to a money guy. Don't just give it to me or somebody. Think for yourself.
And I think critical thinking is one of the things that we definitely have to start leaning into as a society. Just kind of think beyond of what's being told to us. So, Brandon, you might be listening to the show or even watching the show, like, really think about, what we're saying here. Obviously, we don't have much time. You have a whole life to live, but take the advice or take some of this information and apply it, really. And going back to applying things, you're talking about profit first.
Yeah.
I know you talk about pay yourself first is one thing, but starting a business, do you care about if they should take profit first before they start the LLC, all this extra stuff, or like sell a product first? Because I hear there's two different ways to do it. Either you start the business and then hope to make money, or do you make money first and then really start the business? What are your thoughts?
Well, you have, it's that chicken or egg thing, right?
Yeah.
So you have no business if you're not making any money. There's no business, right? It's just a hobby at one point. So I tell some of my clients, I'm like, all right, is this a business or a hobby? If it's a hobby, then okay, treat it like a hobby and don't take income from it, or don't, whatever. But if it's a business, then treat it like a business. And this is where, in the fashion of putting money into the market, we want a return, right?
Yeah.
So we invest in other people's business. It's really what it is. Because when we put in money in the market, we're investing in Tesla stock and all this other kind of stock, right? For them to be profitable. And then we wonder why big mega corporations are taking over the world. I'm like, well, we funded them, right? We created the monsters.
That's what I was wondering.
Right?
Give us back the money.
Right. But that's really what happened. And then we're like, yeah, but it's greed. And then well, who cares? As long as like GameStop is giving me a return, it doesn't matter. Right. But that's crazy advice, I think, because again, it looks like, okay, if I run a profitable business, profit first, I want to have a business that's paying me, whether it's, you might not start at 50% profit out or owner's pay. It might be less than that because you just started, but you want to start somewhere, and then you make micro adjustments towards the numbers, because it's a percentage based business, or system, not a actual number. So you can allocate the percentages. That's why we do our community, is saying, okay, what are the micro adjustments, the things we can make to move in the right direction? So start right when you start the business and you get your first check, put them in the bank accounts.
Nice. See, this is great. I wish I had you as a mentor earlier. It was one of the reasons why I started this show, so I can learn more about the different ways of things that I didn't learn. And that's kind of one of the reason why I do it. This is a selfish reason for me doing this show.
There you go. I learned so much. I was like hanging around with friends. I was at a conference the other day, and I've interviewed one of my friends, Profit First for real estate investors, David Richter. And I was like, I actually saw him in person. I was like, oh, this is weird. I didn't know you. I mean, I know what you look like, but you're like shorter than, I don't know. He's fine. He's the same. He's a good height, but it's just kind of like, that's what you look like in real life. Yeah.
And I've met some of the people that have been on my show in person too at FinCon, at the financial conference that they do every year. And I went for the first time, and I was like, hey, I listened to your show. Hey, I watch your show. You're actually here. Yeah. So it was actually so cool. So before we get into the features, there's one passage in the Bible, Philippians 2. What does that mean to you?
Oh, you listened to somewhere, because I was like, how in the world are you pulling Bible out here? Especially that verse. So that one is actually on my arm. I don't know if you're on YouTube, but you can see it there. So, and I know you did your research because you know that. I am of course married, and this I told my wife when we first got married, you're going to move in with me because I make the most money. It just makes sense. And this Bible verse came and said, put others before yourself, right? In humility, consider others better than yourself. I was like, all right, others better than yourself. That's a good thing to do for somebody else. And then this passage came up again the next day. And then the next day, and I was like, oh, what? This is the man upstairs or somebody saying something. And then it came up again. I was like, oh, I got to move to Chicago, drive an hour to work, reverse drive, because my job was literally 5 minutes away, which I was working for JP Morgan at the time. And so it was really telling me I need to move, put her before me. And we moved to Chicago, and it was probably a very challenging year. It was the first year of marriage. I'm driving in Chicago traffic every day for at least 2.5 hours. But then we opened up a coffee shop later in that same space, and I know God called us to it, or higher power, whatever you want to say. We were just kind of stepping into the next thing. But as I serve clients, I have this facing me, because really it's not about how much money do we make or how big of a financial firm do we have, but how do I keep them as the main thing, right? Serving our clients, making sure they don't lose any money, which none of my clients have lost any money from the work I've done for them. I can't say about that from the market side, right? But I know what I do. And that's really fun for me. and I will keep my integrity. Maybe I'm not going to be uber rich, whatever rich means, but if you want to say monetary,
Right.
but that's fine for me.
Yeah, and that's one of the things like I like about this show is definitions take on so many different takes depending on who you ask. And you know, it's okay to be selfish. So, you know, if you say rich to you is rich in life, rich in, you know, value your time, family, health, then the finances is just an added bonus, then hey, you know.
Well, and I will go back to our business name was called Overflow. Mm-hmm. There's a reason it was called that. But what I learned is if in small business, they say, oh yeah, but you love it. That's why you do it. And people will take everything from you and not put it back. Right. When we're launching a Kickstarter campaign, I'm like, oh yeah, help us overflow. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, right? Because people they'll take all the free stuff and not leave anything for you.
Yeah.
And what you have to do, and this is why connection to faith, relationships outside of work, that you need to fill yourself up first, or in general, or continue the habits to do that. So that way you can overflow to the people around you, right? Because people will take, it will grow, but you need to make sure that you are constantly being filled up so you can do that. Because otherwise, if you don't take care of yourself in those areas, you know, time, kids, everybody will take, you know, time, take things from you.
Yeah.
It's our human nature.
Yeah, to fill a void, but also our human nature is to help out too. But everybody free without money though. That's the thing.
Right. And that's the thing is like when you see some of these things for like again, I'm just thinking about our campaigns and different things. We will give to the big corporations, but not our next door neighbor or friend, and say, "Oh yeah, that's okay. They're fine. They'll make." I'm like, dude,
right?
Because we don't have the big marketing campaign or something. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But we are drawn to the big and the cool factor, and I'm like, yeah, but you don't start that way, and that's where I love about our business. I'm 5 years old. I've made it through, and most businesses. I don't know, how old is your. You've been doing this for how?
This is coming up on 3 years, going into the 4th year.
So
3 years.
So I kind of think about this as when you run a business, it's kind of like having a baby, right? And in the beginning, there's all kinds of crap you have to deal with, like literally. Yeah. And it grows. As it grows, there's less different kind of crap you have to deal with. But and I have a 5-year-old, so I know. But it's very similar to a human. But a lot of times people are like, "Hey, I want to be a 30-year-old business. I want that." I'm like, "You're a newborn. Right. That's not going to happen." Stop comparing yourself to Elon Musk when he's in a different league than you.
Definitely. I know we come up on time, but I want to make sure we get through these last few questions here. So in the third segment, we talk about the features. What skills or habits do you feel that will take you to the next level?
Oh man, my percentages. So this is what's interesting. I am a minimalist in a lot of ways. At least my wife makes me one for the most part. But, yeah. So I feel like our percentages are growing. Our business is now past the 5-year mark, and it's kind of it's doing hockey sticks. And within the infinite banking space, people are coming back and saying, "Oh yeah, what you said about what's going to happen in 2 years ago is happening." I'm like, "Yeah, I knew that was going to happen, but you didn't believe me because interest rates were so low, and it's going to stay this way forever." I'm like, "It's not. It's not going to stay this way," and people were drunk on the Kool-Aid, right? And now it's shifted. And they're like, "Oh, can I have a policy now? Can we start that?" I'm like, "Sure." But it still has to build. Yep. So I just think what was that? Where are we going with this? Where we're heading is serving more people. I want to grow our agency to have more sub agents because I have way too many meetings and not enough time. And I want to change the world, right? So, but we change it same as the coffee shop. One cup at a time is our slogan. We're just changing it one family at a time. Hopefully that they don't hit a lot of roadblocks, that we can change the next generation. Because my son, I think about, this is why I do it for him. I want to give things better than I found it, not worse.
Yeah.
And we need to do something for our next generation, and don't just be takers. I don't know. The environment we're in, it seems like it's a lot of more takers that has been created. And that's why the world is in shambles. And I want to teach my family and the people around me, we can change. We have to change this around.
Yeah. It's, as you could say, like, now that I'm becoming the elders that I used to look up to, is how do we change that narrative that was given upon us, or build upon it, or dissect it and actually make it a lot better. Like you said, just leave it a lot better than what we received it as. Man, anything?
It's a lot, right?
Yes, a lot. It's a lot. Anything you want to say before we dive into the last final 4 questions?
I think the main thing I would say is, like, we have, when you do a policy or any product, I don't care what the life insurance product, infinite banking, I want people to think for themselves. When somebody says, well, I want you to do it for me, I'm like, I can't. I get policy. I could totally sell you something and get it going. And people do this all the time. And then they sell a widget or whatever, and then they're gone. Yeah. Right. I want to make sure that my clients can think for themselves. I'll be the guide. We'll create the buckets that work for them. But ultimately, they're the master of the ship. I want them to educate themselves. That's why we created the 5 Smooth Stones journal, is to be able to help them do that, so that way they can figure it out. Now, of course, you have mentors and guides. We want to be that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's up to you, the individual. So go to there. Download if you go to wealthwisdomfp.com/shop, you'll see that it's an interactive money journal. You'll see those things, as well as our podcast, YouTube, all those things. So that's main thing, is get the tools and use them.
Yes, please do. Not just get them. All right. So you ready for the final 4 questions?
Oh yeah. Let's go.
Alrighty. Number 1, what does wealth mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, our business name is Wealth Wisdom Financial. And someone had asked, why do you have wealth and financial? Aren't they the same thing? And I'm like, no, they are not. Because you could live in Africa, have no money, and you have a wealth of community or something, and I think there's a lot of wealthy people who are broke financially. And then there's a lot of financially wealthy people who are broke in other areas, whether it's health, marriage, their kids they don't know, those kind of things. And I think wealth is more than money. And I want to be able to build all of those, from faith to family. I want my son to actually like me and to want to spend time with me. So then I can, again, reverse engineering so my grandson will like me, or like, he's not even here.
Right.
So thinking about those things. And so wealth means so much more to me.
Number 2, what was your worst money mistake?
Oh, I would say, I can't say going to college. But maybe sometimes, that, or starting a business, right? I mean, but it was a crazy, stupid, I don't even know what the heck we were doing. However, it was a great decision. So what I like to think about is, we are going to have money mistakes, and I'll continue to have them, but I want to be able to quickly change and say, oh, that was stupid. Let's adapt real quick versus, oh, that was stupid 30 years later. And we don't change, right? And that's the problem I see. I deal with a lot of 7-year-olds. So I'm like, I don't know what to do for you. We're 40. That's still young.
Yeah, so
we got time.
Yeah.
To make a lot of mistakes.
Number 3, what is your favorite financial or non-financial book?
This is where I'm supposed to probably say the Bible. Okay. That's a good one. Our new book, of course, is my favorite right now, the 5 Smooth Stones Journal, because my wife and I mainly her, wrote the book. And that's really good. I love The Richest Man in Babylon. And we're readers, so I read all kinds of stuff. So those are several books right there.
Yeah. I have, the only one I don't have is your book. So I need to get your book.
Hey, only one person has it, and that's me, because it's only on Kickstarter right now. So you can go to the Kickstarter. It might be past Kickstarter phase. Totally get it. It's going to be amazing.
Nice. All right. Number 4, what is your favorite dish to make?
Eat. Is that what you said? Favorite dish to eat?
to make, if you like cook.
So I am not a big cooker, like pasta, stuff like that. That's easy to do. We're kind of minimalist in that regard. But I like, my grandma's recipes. I think she made a really good grape salad, which I found out wasn't really my grandma's. It was my aunt's, because I posted a picture and my aunt was like, yeah, that's mine. I was like, oh, well, whatever. It's still really good grape salad. So if you ever want the recipe, everybody asks for it every holiday. So I got to make it. It's cream cheese, grapes, a lot of sugar, and, not very healthy, but it has grapes in it. So it's kind of healthy.
Whatever makes you happy. A little garlic. Hey, I got greens in there. That's right.
It's Christmas time, you're supposed to eat that stuff.
You're great. This is the last question of the show, which is, where could people find out more about you?
You can find us on YouTube. We have if you go to Wealth Wisdom FP or Wealth Wisdom Financial on YouTube, of course, go to our website, wealthwisdomfp.com. We also have a community site there, so you can join the community for free. And then we have, little things that we teach along the way. But go to wealthwisdomfp.com. It's where you can find most. And if you can't find me looking up Wealth Wisdom Financial, call me and let me know that I'm not on Twitter or something and you can't find me, because I better be able to be found everywhere.
Gotcha. Oh, definitely. I'll let you know, because I got to put the show notes together.
Right.
All right, Brandon. Well, it's a pleasure having you on this show. So everybody, if you're listening to this right now, you made it all the way through, you got some information out of this, make sure you please go ahead on and like, subscribe, share, and remember to always invest in yourself, invest in your knowledge, and to continue to build strong financial habits. All right, everybody, I'm out. Peace.